Hey everybody, welcome back to War Games News Radio and this episode of Wasteland Workshop, where by request we're going to take a look at a way of giving your robots in Fallout Wasteland Warfare interchangeable arms and weapons. Now if you're a fan of the robot faction, you know that there's a ton of different ways that you can kit these things out when you're playing the game, especially if you've gone ahead and picked up the Automatron expansion pack. But unfortunately, there aren't a whole lot of options to representing that on the tabletop. And because Modifius has just recently released the Automatron Workshop Fallout Friday scenario, I decided to get a little down and dirty with some super glue and some magnets and make some of my robots interchangeable. Wasteland Warfare is not a WYSIWYG game, but this was just a fun way for me to experiment and have some of these different robots and their different options represented on the tabletop. So let's take a look at how I was able to make these robots interchangeable, swappable, and magnetized. Let's get to it. So for this project, you're going to need a couple of things. Number one being some small hobby crafting magnets. These ones are 3mm by 1mm. I got these at my local gaming store, but of course you can get them online if you can't find them in person. But definitely try and support those local gaming stores right now. They need your help more than ever. Next up, super glue, the old standby. Not really much to say there. Drill bit that matches your size of your magnets. You could use a hand drill, but I'm going to be going electric here because I'm just that lazy and I like to live dangerously. A hobby knife and a pair of snippers. These ones are a little big, but they'll get the job done. I've had these for years, so we'll see what we can do. And you're also going to need a roster of robots. So to show you how I go about this technique, which is pretty simple, we're going to do a bit of a hybrid job between one Protectron and a Mr. Handy. So let's get to it. So first things first, take the robotic appendage that you wish to remove and remove it. Just try to butt up to the base of the robot's body with the short end of your clippers and gingerly clip. So there we go. We now have one arm off of this bad boy. I think you're gonna want to do a quick cleanup job to the side of the arm here. Just take off any sort of excess bits to give it a bit of a flat surface for that drill to bite into. Just sort of flattened that arm out. Robot number one is an amputee. Next, we're going to take a look and do the same thing on our Mr. Handy here and remove this flamer. I've already gone ahead and done this on the Mr. Handy saw blade, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to show you how I do this one as well, and same thing. We're just going to separate that arm. You can sand this as well, but we're about to drill into it, so it's not going to matter all that much. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this robotic appendage here, just to make sure it's got about as flat as a possible surface to work with. Here we go. That'll get the job done. Doing this a little quick and dirty just to show you how it's done, but you get the idea. We now have two robots who are missing their respective arms. So now we're going to bust out the drill and we're going to socket in some holes for those magnets. The joy of power tools. Eat your heart out, Tim the Toolman Taylor. If you're going to be cutting or drilling into any sort of resin like this, make sure you're wearing a respirator. We don't want anybody getting anything in their lungs, but this is going to be a really scientific, as I just literally, very slowly at first, start drilling into the side of this robot. Again, you probably want to use a hand drill, but like I said, I like to live dangerously. Once you've got a bit of a socket in the side of the robot here, you can just clean it up a little bit again with a hobby knife or a bit of sandpaper. And make sure you've got yourself a bit of a well to put your magnet inside. Now with that done, you should have a bit of a socket that you can put that magnet inside. We're gonna add a little bit of paint on there to really make sure it's blended and looks flush with what we're doing. Now I've already started to make a whole different array of different weapons here, as you can see. So if you're gonna have multiple options on multiple robots, make sure you're using the same magnetic end on the arms so you can make these swappable with anything you do down the line. If you end up flipping the magnets and having the reverse polarity end on it, it's not gonna go on. So for Mr. Handy Flamer here, we're going to put a little dab of super glue, and then we're going to attach the magnet just by holding this whole row of magnets, adding just a little bit of pressure until the arm stays all on its own. Then I'm actually going to use my hobby knife to separate the magnet that it's attached to, just like that. Next, I'm going to take my little scalpel here again, and I'm going to slip it in between the two magnets. So now I know that this is my end that will attach to the body, and this is the end that I want to put inside the Protectron's arm cavity. So for that, I'm just going to, again, take a little dab of super glue, put it inside this cavity that we have here. Let that dry for just a minute, just so it gets a little bit tacky. And then I'm going to take my hobby knife with my magnet here, and I'm just going to insert it into the cavity. By doing the same thing to the Mr. Handy, then you've got all kinds of options that you can swap around with. Now you can have a Mr. Handy with a Protectron laser and a flamer, or you can have a Protectron with a buzz blade, or you can have an Assaultron with a melter nail gun thing and a Assaultron blade. Construction Protectron with all kinds of different options. Also a fun way to give yourself an Ada, which is one of my favorite Fallout 4 companions, with laser rifle arm and Assaultron blade. There you go. All you need is some super glue, some magnets, and some robots that you're willing to perform some light surgery on, and you can have a whole bunch of different interchangeable options when putting together your robots in Wasteland Warfare. Stay tuned when we're going to put some of these robot combinations to the test in the Automatron workbench scenario. We've got a battle report coming for that very soon. So stick around, make sure you're subscribed to WGNR, and follow us on Instagram and on Discord as well. There's some links to that down below. So thanks again for watching. We'll be back with another episode of Wasteland Workshop. Stay tuned, more to come on War Games News Radio.